Celiac disease and gluten intolerance affects at least 1 in 133 Americans. The disease mostly affects people of European, especially Northern European descent, but recent studies show that it also affects Hispanic, Black, and Asian populations as well. But what exactly does celiac do? Dr. Glenberg has a story.
Well, with the celiac disease, the most common symptoms are gastrointestinal. You get abdominal bloating, gas, diarrhea, also can get weight loss. There's a variety of other non-gastrointestinal symptoms that you can get as well. Things we worry about in particular are nutritional deficiencies, vitamin D, iron deficiency is probably one of the more common deficiencies, folate, calcium. So there's a variety of symptoms that can occur, but the gastrointestinal symptoms are the most common.
As of now, researchers in Stanford are working on a pill for celiac disease. But up until this point, the only cure seems to be to change one's diet.
The biggest things that folks with celiac disease are actually not allowed to eat in any form or fashion is anything made from wheat, barley, or rye. And then here in the United States, it's a questionable thing about oats. Uncontaminated pure oats they can eat, but if oats are, say, processed in an area that also wheat, barley, and rye is processed, then they cannot eat those oats. So it's mainly wheat, barley, and rye.
Here in Fargo, there is an increasing need for celiacs to eat at gluten-free places. Grocery stores offer gluten-free sections, but what about those in search of something on the run? Simply Savories is a bakery that caters to the gluten-intolerant in Fargo.
By this time, we had a total of 9 celiacs in my family. They said, well, you should, start a business and do this. And I happen to be in a position where I could do that, so here we are today.
Dean Riley's daughter, Catherine, has faced a lot of hardship with celiac disease. Type 1 diabetes and celiac disease are known to come from the same gene, so they're closely related with one another. Coming up, Dean Riley talks of how he's dealt with his daughter's battle with this heart-wrenching problem. Stay tuned.
Having some gastrointestinal problems, and she oftentimes felt bloated, and we weren't quite sure what it was. We tested. She's also diabetic, and so we tested for a number of things, and finally, by elimination, the doctors came down to the idea that it was celiac disease.
Costs for diagnosing celiac disease are high. According to the AACSA Foundation, medical charges per managed care member per year for those eventually diagnosed with celiac disease were determined to be $8,500 in the year prior to diagnosis and $12,600 in the year following diagnosis, and lower thereafter. The National Institute of Health was estimated that digestive diseases in the United States cost over $141 billion. Early diagnosis of celiac disease could reduce this burden.
Rather than spend the amount of money that it would take to actually finally diagnose it, the idea was, why not put her on a gluten-free diet and see if her bloating went away and her problems went away. And they did. And so she's been on a gluten-free diet ever since, and she's obviously celiac.
Paul Mehel, owner of Simply Savories, also has faced difficulty with celiac disease.
Just have to throw up. It was like it hit so fast, I could barely reach over and get the garbage can, just with no warning. And in retrospect, it was after I had eaten like pizza corner pizza, because it's got really high gluten content.
With celiac disease, you need to make sure that they know that there is absolutely no cheating, that they can never, ever, ever, ever eat wheat, barley, or rye, or any derivative of those, and that they have to have pure kitchens. They can't share toasters with a weed eater. They can't share certain, for example, if people are baking, the flour dust floats around for a good 24 hours. So it needs to be a pretty pure area that they store their wheat for your gluten-free grains in.
The gluten intolerant don't need to feel as if something is wrong with them. This is actually more common than we realize.
I think that it's not a disease really. It's a natural state that sometimes is induced Actually, it's probably fairly natural, much more natural for humans, not to have a gluten-rich diet and to have generally a gluten-free diet. And most likely celiac disease, as it's called now, didn't come on to many people until we began to have a diet that was consisted of domesticated wheat, barley, millets, and things like that.
So, if you have celiac disease, remember, it's more common than we realize, and we are just in the awareness stage. As time goes on, there will be medical advances that will help make this condition better. But for now, just stick to a gluten-free diet and you'll feel as good as new.